Hi, everyone. I am Steve at Serverless. I am joined today by Matthew Napoli, product manager of the Serverless framework, Chris Calligaro, one of our product designers, and then also Jeremy Daly. Many of you know him as an AWS Serverless hero. He's also our GM of Serverless Cloud, which is our newest product, which is in public preview. So thanks everyone for joining. So if you haven't joined us in one of these community calls before, we'll be doing some live Q&A throughout. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask those questions in the questions tab, which should show up on the bottom right. And other people can upvote questions as well. So put them there so we make sure we see them. We'll be pausing every couple of minutes to take a look at questions and answer them. And then you should also see a chat. So if you're a chat, go ahead and say hi and let us know where you're dialing in from, or dialing in is in, I think that kind of really ages me, telling me, tell me where you're logging in from on your broadband connection. So I'm in Washington State. Yeah, let us know where you're at. We always love to hear it. And thanks again for joining. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So you might see a couple of links on these slides. You should be able to download them in Livestorm from this interface and download this PDF, which has links that you might want to refer to. And what we're going to be covering today are a couple intros. We'll also talk about Serverless Cloud, the latest updates, and a quick demo of how it works. So Jeremy is going to lead that part of the demo, lead that part of the conversation and Q&A. Then Matthew is going to be demonstrating some of the cool features in V3 of Serverless Framework, which should be generally available January or Q1 of next year. And then Chris is going to be showing off Serverless Dashboard, which some of you may already be using, but it's a great feature for enhancing your Serverless Framework experience. And then also talking about our new product, Serverless Console, which is slated to be coming out in 2022, and it's currently in private preview. So a lot of you, or I think hopefully all of you, got a reminder email, which you just, which you should be seeing here on the right, which has a link in there which provides feedback to us. So this is super helpful to us. So at the end of today's presentation, we would love for you to click on that link and finish a 1-minute survey to show us, like, hey, how can we improve? And also, like, what type of content and what type of topics do you want to see in the future? One other thing that I also want to talk about is our user stories and author program, which is starting out in early 2022. We're going to be soliciting ideas from all of you and want you to be guest authors on our blog and help us author technical content and tutorials. So we'll be coming out with more details, but we'll be making swag and then also paid opportunities for content authoring available as well. So if you're interested, if you have a great story about how you're using serverless right now, we'd love to hear it. And there's a link to the form here in the PDF. But then I'll also put this in the chat in just a moment as well. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Jeremy, who's going to take us through what's the latest and greatest in Serverless Cloud. Here you go, Jeremy.
Thank you, Stephen. Super excited about what we're working on with Serverless Cloud. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. For those of you who are not familiar with Serverless Cloud, it's a new offering that is in public preview. And essentially what it is it's a application platform for, that's really focused on the developer experience. So super easy to build. I'm going to actually demo something, and I'm going to try something crazy. I'm going to do a live demo here and try to build something from scratch and show you how easy it is to use that. One of the new features that we just launched is what we're calling serverless storage. And essentially serverless storage, it's backed by S3. So I'm sure, a lot of people who use AWS are familiar with S3 and just how durable that is, and how, it's really an amazing product that allows you to save, blob storage, whatever you want to do. And what we are trying to do at Serverless Cloud is build interfaces that allow you to connect to these services very, very easily with zero configuration. That's a big thing that we're trying to do. And so that you can build services rapidly and you don't have to do much in order to get things up and running. So I've got about 15 minutes here, so I'm going to try to build something very, very quickly. So I'm going to jump over to, if I can get there, I'm going to jump over to Visual Studio Code, and I have a empty directory open, and I'm going to try to move this over here so we can see what happens there as well. So I just have an empty directory. It's just called storage demo. As you can see, there's nothing in here. The great thing about the cloud product is essentially all you do is type in cloud. As soon as you type in cloud in an empty directory, it's going to ask you which organization you're using. Most of you will just have one. And then it'll go ahead and say, do you want to create a new app, or do I want to work on an existing one? I'm going to create a new one. Gives you a couple of little boilerplate options here in terms of what you can choose. I'm just going to do a JavaScript API. What do I want to call it? I'm going to call it my storage-demo. And it'll go ahead and generate my app files. We'll see these start populating over here. It'll install some NPM dependencies for me, so I get my node modules. And then once all that is ready to go, it'll connect, and then it will actually see data in here as well. So we now have this live URL, which if I click on this and it opens up over here, this actually has now created and deployed a complete serverless application for me. This I'm just pulling back because it's an API example. It's just pulling back some users from the serverless data. And to see how easy that is, this is basically just 16 lines of code. I import a couple. Wait for that syntax highlighting to kick in. Import a couple of our interfaces from our SDK, what we call our serverless development kit. And then I just have an API get route, and then this catch-all that will redirect me to users. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this, and I'm going to show you some of the power of this new thing we call storage. So I'm going to go ahead and change, or go ahead and import the storage interface, and we actually will not need the data one. Not that it matters, but we don't need that. And then I'm going to use this new feature we added to our API interface called upload. So I just go ahead and type in upload, just like a regular Express app if I'm building Express or something like that. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to create an endpoint, and I'm going to call it upload. And then I'm going to let the cool code stuff that that GitHub does fill in some space for me. So essentially all I'm doing is API upload, async, rec res. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to get the content of the upload. And so for this, I'm actually going to just do something quickly and show you how it works first, and then we can actually turn it into an app. So I'm just going to do console.log, and I'll do rec.files. And this is going to go ahead and give me a I'm going to return the files for that are uploaded as part of this upload script. And the only problem with this code stuff is that it messes things up. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and send back a status of 200. So fill that in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And you'll notice, let me get rid of the thing down the bottom there, sorry. So you notice that this just synced my code in less than 1 second. So essentially, if I was to refresh this page over here, that's not going to be found because we're actually, because I just removed that route, so that you can't really see it here, but this slash users route has been removed. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to just change this to the root here. Still going to be not found because there's nothing that's loading here. And this API upload is actually creating a post and a put route automatically for me. So without having an interface to do that, I can't really do anything. So unless I was posting from Postman or something like that. So I'm going to create a new folder over here called static. And this is just a convention that we use that if I want to create any static files, I can do that. I'm going to click new file, and I'll call this index.html. I'll use the magic of VS Code to create this file here. That is just a standard file. I'll call this my uploader. And then I'll go in here and I'll type in form, and an action will be /upload because that's my endpoint. Put a method in of post, and we'll put an enc type in here of multi-part form. And then we'll go ahead and create a file, which will fill in for me nicely, and a submit. See if this does that. It does. Perfect. And I'll get rid of that. Maybe put a break here so that we can see it better. All right. So now we have this very simple HTML file, just index, that has a form, that has a file, and a submit button. I'm going to save this. We'll watch this updating down here. This is synced. I refresh this page over here. And immediately now I have this interface, this beautiful HTML interface here that allows me to upload files. So if I hit choose file, this is actually going to open up, open up my file window just like normal HTML file field would do. I'll select this little image that I've got here, click open, and then click upload. So now I get this 200 OK. But if we look at our console log, which by the way is streamed directly back to you through this interface, through the CLI, I'll see that I have my field name as file, I've got my original name, I've got the encoding, I've got the MIME type, and then I conveniently have a buffer that is perfect for the serverless storage interface, and then a size as well. So let's jump back to index over here, and let's actually make it do something. So we don't need to log this anymore, but what we're actually going to do is just write an await, and we're going to do storage dot write. And then we are going to write this in as the original file name. I would suggest that that you do some checking on this. So this is not particularly safe. You'd want to check this name, but we'll do rec dot, can't type, sorry, files 0, because it comes back as an array. You can upload multiple ones if you want to. Dot original name, and then we will do rec dot files 0 dot buffer. Fill in for us, which it does. And that should be good to go. And I really wish that would wrap. If I save it, maybe my make this a little bigger so I can see it. So storage.write, rec.file0 original name, and then rec.file0 buffer. That's it. We'll send back our 200. And before we actually do that, we want to make sure we have a way to see if it works. So I'm just going to do an API get, and I'll just do /files, and then comma, fill in for me, async that. And what I'll do, what I'll do here is then just do a, let's do const files await storage.list rest JSON files. Yeah, why not? We'll try that. And I think we can, we can put in a field here. All right, so now we have our upload, right? Simple, 2 lines that basically say create this, write this file into our storage, and then we have another one that will go ahead and list these files for us. So if we jump back over to this here, go back, and we can go ahead and hit upload again. Same thing, get the OK. And then if we jump over, let me open a new window, a new tab, make it a little bit easier. And we will do what do we call it? /files, hit /files. And now we're getting this array of all of our files that are listed here. Now, a couple of cool things we can do once we have files in our system. The first thing is, let's say we just wanted to serve it. So we're completely integrated the storage solution with the API solution. So if I just want to say get my file, for example, then I can go ahead and do this here and create a new endpoint. And then if I want to serve that file, now that's a private file, so nobody can access that file. That's private just to this application. But if I do want to serve it up, maybe I do some authentication, or they enter some credentials, or they do something and I want to send it back, I can actually just do res send file and specify the name of the file that I put in. And I'm not going to try to type it, so I'm just going to copy it from here. So I'll copy this, drop this into send file like this, put the / there, and save that. So now up here I have a list of my files, and then if I want to serve up that private file, I type in my file, do that, and magically I get a redirected to a signed storage key that is private. So now, and I can control how long this storage key lasts and things like that. So very, very simple to use this. But if I always had to serve this up, with the send file thing, then what if I've got a really large file, right? And we don't want to have to be serving those up through our API. We want a better way to do it. So one of the things that we can do makes it super easy. And this is just to simplify the permission model. I can actually change this to put the file into a /public. Now, of course, I can put this into /public, /test, /avatar, /whatever I want to put it into. But as long as it is prefixed with this public here, I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to upload the same file again. So I'll just hit upload again, get my 200. Okay, great. All right, now, rather than accessing this through this big, long storage bucket thing here, instead, I now have off of my URL, I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to make this bigger so that we can see the whole URL. So now I go to /public/ oops, name in again because I don't want to type it, / this file here, / and do that. And now I go ahead and hit enter. And now you have the same exact file loading, but from this public endpoint, and it's all loading through the CDN. Now, again, you can do custom domains. So this can be serving off of a custom domain. So you have a lot of different use cases that we can do with this. You can have it as private files. And of course, there are, the storage interface has copy, it has delete, it has move. You can just read a file in. So you can read a file in and do a bunch of really cool things. And one of the things that I'd love to just show you, because I got a couple more minutes. I know I'm almost running out of time, but I want to show you this. So we do have the ability with Cloud to actually fork applications. So rather than you having to build an application from scratch, you can actually fork these. So this is our public page for some of the apps Serverless Inc. has built. And one of the new ones we put in here is the image resizer. So if I click over into image resizer and let this load, and hopefully this goes, why it's not loading. Oh, there we go. I can go ahead and just click fork app. So if I click fork app, this will open it up and it will ask me where do I want to put it into. So I'm going to put it into my my own org. I'll just call it image resizer 1 because I'm not sure if I think I already have one called image resizer. I probably did this before. So this will go ahead and fork this app with all of the functionality behind the scenes. It'll just put it right back into my own application. I can access it from my CLI, so I can edit the code with my IDE, have full control over it. But this is a way to get you started really, really quickly. So it even tells you how you might want to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to go ahead and launch the live version of it because this is now in what? I don't know, a minute, less than a minute. I now have my own version of this image resizer running. I'm going to go ahead and select the same file, hit open. This loads it in here. And now I want to change the size, maybe make it 200 by 500. So I'll squeeze it. I'll hit resize. And then magically, this has resized this image for me. So this is actually using a package called GIMP behind the scenes, just an open source package that you can use. But essentially, this is the power that you get with this serverless storage. And so now, like I said, you can have private files. Maybe you're generating PDFs and you're saving those, and those only serve up off of private URLs for clients that are logged into your application. Or maybe you want people to upload avatars and you want to resize them and then make them public so that there's a public avatar available via the CDN. So all of this is now available within Serverless Cloud, and hopefully this interface, it's just a few, list and read and write and move and things like that. Just makes it really, really easy and hopefully a great experience. So we'd love for you to try it out and give us your feedback, but it's available now. So go to serverless.com/cloud and sign up, start trying it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. And we've got a couple questions that people have put in the question tab. You want to take a couple minutes to go through those? I think
absolutely. I'm just going to move this over to the screen. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Where are the questions?
Why don't I let you scroll and let you take care of that?
Okay. They're not separated into questions, right?
Well.
Oh, you have a different questions tab.
Oh, there's a different questions tab. Okay, hold on. Let me go over there. Oh, questions.
Nope.
Questions. Okay. Will you be supporting responsive image breakpoints with an API similar to Cloudflare? Responsive image breakpoint. So we're not doing anything specific with images right now. So you can upload the images and you could create a bunch of different thumbnail sizes and things like that. Serverless Cloud is really focused on the backend. We're the backend API right now. So we do have support if you want to run a Vue app or you want to run React or something like that, you can. But we're not yet doing a lot of that fancy work that resizing images to all different sizes, but that is a super great suggestion and definitely something that we'll look into. Does it handle any file size? Does it use multi-part upload for files greater than 100 megabytes? So you can send the files in as either the body, or you can send them in as multi-part. There is a limit when you are uploading them directly through the API itself. So there's a 6 meg limit. We're using Lambda behind the scenes for serving most of our API endpoints. So there would be a limit there, but there is a very cool feature that says get URL. I think it's called get storage upload URL. And that will go ahead and give you a URL that you can then use. And then you can upload the files that way. And you're basically uploading them directly into an S3 bucket at that point that's authorized for you to do that. We are waiting on some streaming capabilities that hopefully will be released, that will give us some more capabilities to do streaming through the actual Lambda itself, but right now you'd have to upload directly with those upload files. With that upload URL. Current documentation v3. Oh, that's a different thing. What's the best approach to spin up a developer environment? I think some of these are not related to cloud. Which cloud sits behind serverless cloud? Oh, good one. Yeah, so we're using AWS right now to power everything with cloud. And again, part of the reason is because the ecosystem is very advanced. There's a lot of really cool things to be able to do, or a lot of cool things we can do very, very quickly. If we're building this out on our own infrastructure or something like that, then we wouldn't have the same level of reliability that you're going to get with Amazon. So, and the great thing here is you can also integrate, with Amazon, other Amazon services. So if you did want to run, your own DynamoDB, or maybe you want to use, some machine learning API, or you want to use, image recognition or something like that, all of those are available to you. Just by using your access keys, within our environment. We have a whole security or a whole secrets management system that would allow you to do that. Is it possible to script having Lambda functions using a specific VPN in order to speak to AWS Postgres so that Lambdas can be whitelisted in the inbound database roles? So right now we don't allow VPC peering, but Ken, if that's something that you are interested in, just reach out to the team, because those are the kind of things that we want to make sure we're covering specific use cases. So if you did want to use Postgres within your serverless app, within your serverless cloud application, we can enable that, but we just would want to speak to you about exactly what it is that you need.
Awesome.
I think that's
all right.
it.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think there might, if there are any questions that we haven't answered, we will make sure to follow up offline and follow up with you as well. I published 2 questions in the polls tab, so if you want to take a moment, they'll really just help us understand kind of like, who we're talking to today. And while you're doing that, why don't I introduce Matthew Napoli. So he's our product manager for Serverless Framework, based out of Italy, and he's going to be taking us through some of the latest updates in Framework. Take it away, Matthew.
Yes, actually based in France. Just wanted to...
Ah, crap. I'm sorry. My bad.
No worries. I know the name is confusing. And I do love Neapolitan pizza as well, so I know that's just adding to the confusion as well.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so
my bad, Matthew.
No problem. Let's get started with Serverless Framework. And I'll share my screen. All good? Just let me know, Stephen, as soon as you can see my screen.
Good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, okay, great. Just wanted to mention, I will be doing a demo of Serverless Framework, introduction to Serverless Framework, and a demo of like a real application. And I will be doing that with the V3 beta. So that way you can see what the V3 beta looks like. You can check out the blog post. I'm sure Stephen will share that in the chat. We've worked hard at improving the developer experience, and I wanted to show that today. So let's get started. I don't have anything. I want to get started with Serverless Framework. To create a project, well, first you have to install the Serverless CLI and set up your AWS account. Then just one command will help you get started with a new project. I have a different templates that I can use. Node.js, Python. Let's go with an HTTP API. I can name my project. I like being quite original. and it will download the template and create the serverless framework project for me. I can also onboard my project into the serverless dashboard. So as you can see, it's really easy to do. Let's do that. And then I have the choice, the option to deploy my project. I will not deploy the project right now. Actually, sorry, I just want to show you, before doing that, what the project looks like. And the template created 2 files for me, serverless.yml. This is where we configure everything that we want to deploy to AWS, and this is how we will create and deploy our serverless applications. Let's have a look. Please don't judge me. I'm using PHP Storm to edit JavaScript projects. I haven't set up my shortcuts yet in the IDE, other IDEs, so you can use, of course, any IDE or editor that you want. This is the serverless.yml file that was created, and this is what will be used to create the serverless application in your AWS account. In my example here, I have only one function. So this is a Lambda function that will be created as soon as I run serverless deploy, and it will create an HTTP API for me with one endpoint with the handler.js file as the endpoint handler. This is the code that will be called as soon as I hit that endpoint. So let's deploy. And hopefully here you will be able to appreciate the new design of Serverless Framework v3. As you can see, the yellow colors are gone. We've tried to make the whole experience a bit more interactive, remove noise, and try to focus on the information that is most useful, actionable at any given point. So right now I see that this is creating the CloudFormation stack. Serverless Framework deploys with CloudFormation. And as soon as that's finished, we'll be able to access our application. You have plenty of examples you can get started with. Python, you have plenty of plugins as well. You can check out on the serverless website. And if you have questions about Serverless Framework v3, feel free to ask the questions in the chat and I will answer them. As you just saw before, the package was uploaded, and now we are creating the CloudFormation stack. Package was uploaded, and now we are updating the CloudFormation stack. You've used Serverless Framework before, which I've seen in the chat. I guess most of you are familiar with those steps. We've tried just to make that a bit easier to follow. You know what? While it's deploying, that will create an API endpoint for us. What I want to show is the example application we will be checking out today. This is a status page, and we'll be creating that status page with Serverless Framework. This status page is currently running, so the static website is running on my laptop and querying an endpoint that is deployed on AWS with the Serverless Framework. And this is what we will check out right after our API, of course, takes a while to deploy. This is the demo effect. I should have done that before. Great job, Mathieu. So again, while it's deploying, let's check out the demo application and how it works. How can we create a status page with Serverless Framework and AWS, serverless technologies on AWS? If you're building a website, you probably have the static website. Here, this is a Vue.js application and the API. So static website, I will be hosting that on AWS with CloudFront and S3. I won't go over that part here because I want to focus on the serverless part and the serverless API part. So even though I will be using CloudFront and S3 to get CDN and static file hosting, for my demo, I will be running the Vue.js application locally. This is why you can see a localhost URL. But the serverless API will be running with AWS Lambda and on AWS. And I will detail what happens and how can we build that API for our status page. Now, our demo application has been deployed. I just wanted you to see the output of the deploy command because this is the only one I will be running tonight. You can see I have my Lambda function created. I have my API endpoint, and I can open that in the browser and see the response. Now, this is the demo. Let's check out our status page. So let me close that window. And let's dive into that status page API. As I said, we'll be using API Gateway, but we have to run code. We have to. We need an endpoint that, even though this is a Vue.js application, we need an endpoint that returns the list of websites in our status page. So with API Gateway, we can have Lambda functions that respond to specific routes. API Gateway lets us create the URL and the domain. And for that specific route, I will create a Lambda function that returns the list of websites. Let's check out what this looks like. Let's close that new project. Here is my status page application. I have my serverless.yaml file just like before in the demo, except this one will have much more content. And this is the endpoint that returns the list of websites as a JSON response. So you can see here, this is how I deploy an API Gateway, and for that specific route, how I connect a Lambda function to be invoked. That Lambda function, so this is the API folder, the list website.js file. That Lambda function will return the list of websites. Now, to do that, I'm using a database. I'm using DynamoDB. I could use anything, and here my website list, the list of all of my websites will be stored in DynamoDB. So this is why in my code, as you can see, I'm making a query to DynamoDB, and this is very basic code, please don't judge, and returning the list of websites. That way, Vue.js has the list of all my websites. This is great, but as you can see here, I can see my websites, I can see the status. Example.com is up, and that website isn't really, it's not a real website. If I click that, there's no website there. This is intentional. This website is marked as done. I need to refresh the status of each website. To do that, I'm not doing it synchronously. I don't want to check the status of each website in the Vue.js application. I don't want to do that in the API because it takes a bit of time. I'm doing that asynchronously. And for that, I will be using a cron task or some kind of cron task, which we can do with AWS Lambda. So I'm creating a second Lambda function, which I called cron because I'm super creative, and it will be invoked every 2 minutes. And the job of that Lambda is, of course, to refresh the status of each website. So in serverless.yaml, this is how I create my second Lambda function and how I set up the schedule. Every 2 minutes, that piece of code will be invoked. Now, how can we check the status of each website? We could do that in the cron Lambda function, but I wanted to avoid that for 2 reasons. First, I wanted to make the demo a bit more interesting. And second, I don't want to, let's say I have 10 websites to check. I don't want to check the 10 websites in the same job. Let's say anything happens, like anything goes wrong in the while processing all those websites, while checking them, then I failed the status check of all my websites. Instead, what I want to do is split up each of these tasks and process them in parallel, completely separately from each other. I choose to do that via, so yeah, obviously I need to fetch the list of websites, and I've chosen to split up the tasks using SQS. We could use many other services, and feel free to suggest in the chat. I'm sure we'll have plenty of ideas, but the idea is that SQS will let me insert a job to do for each website and have retries and dead letter queues and failure management that will be really easy to do. I can also parallelize checking each website with Lambda. So that's really really easy to do. Now, my cron task will fetch the list of websites, and for each one of them, insert them into SQS to be processed. I need to process SQS now. And the great thing is that we can also have SQS invoke Lambda. So I'm creating a third Lambda function, and that function will be invoked once per website. That's how I set it up with SQS. Let me show you how it works. Again, in serverless.yaml. I have my function here, and I'm setting up an event where SQS, so this is my queue, SQS will invoke my function anytime there is a new message in the queue. For the demo, I'm disabling anything related to batching just to make it simpler. Let's check out that function. I'm dealing with a case where I could get multiple records, but I'm not using batching here, so please ignore that that for loop. It's just to write proper code, and then I'm checking the status of each website, and this is where we basically just do an HTTP request to the URL and see if it responds with a 200 code in less than 3 seconds. If it works, and I'm considering the website to be up. So now I need to update the status in DynamoDB again, a DynamoDB code, and that's it. I'm trying to make very small Lambda functions, each one with a very simple job. That way it's much easier to follow. So, sorry, that's what happens every 2 minutes. Now the last piece I want to show, and then I will do the demo, is we need to add new websites. We need to be able to add new websites to the list. So to do that, the proper way would be to have a new endpoint, a new URL, with a form maybe in the front end. And whenever the form is submitted, we create a new website and insert it in DynamoDB. I'm lazy. I didn't do that. Instead, I did not add a route. I did not add a form. I simply created a new Lambda function that exists in the void. And as you can see in the configuration in serverless.yaml, that function exists without an event. I'm not saying this is something good for production, but for my demo, it works well. And what I'll do is I actually invoke that function directly with the serverless framework commands. So I can show you how to invoke a function directly. Now let's get started. So as a reminder, we have two websites here. One is down, one is up. So what I will do is first just show what has been deployed to AWS, because I ran serverless deploy before. So I have my 4 functions here. I have my HTTP API, my HTTP endpoint. And now what I can do is insert a new website in the DynamoDB table. So for that, I will invoke manually my function, which is called add website, and I can pass any data in there. So that data is actually what ends up in the, let me open the file, is what ends up in the event variable. So this is, I just pass the URL and that gets inserted in DynamoDB. So let's do that. I will tail the logs of all my functions so that we can see in real time things happen. So let's invoke my add website function. Done. Seems like it worked correctly. And what should happen is that we should see logs from my add website function here. Perfect. So my first function ran and it inserted into DynamoDB. It also triggered a refresh. The website is newly created. Let's trigger a refresh, and we can see on the right side a log from my check website function, where we can see that the website serverless.com is up, which is good news. Now, we'll also see some more lines appear, because every 2 minutes, again, every website will be checked. But if we get back to the Vue.js application, we can see our new website serverless.com. It's up. It's right there. The serverless logs command lets you see the logs of Lambda applications. And here what I'm using is the --tail option, so that I can tail in real time anything that happens in Lambda. Or we can see on the right side that the cron task is running. So we can see here it's running. So we get some of those logs, and it will stream in my CLI as soon as all the websites refresh. But yeah, you can see that last checked 0 minutes ago. So it just refreshed here. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea how a serverless application can run using many different AWS services. Each one does a specific job, like API Gateway, DynamoDB for storage, SQS, but you could of course look at SNS, EventBridge, many others. So I heard a lot of noise. I guess there are some questions. Let's have a look at them.
Hey, Matthew, I think Bargov posted one question in the chat. So his question is, what's the best practice to play around with the framework to try it out and then clean up all the resources created by the framework on AWS?
Right. There is a serverless remove command that will destroy the application you just deployed. So that's really nice when you are playing around, trying an example application, which I just did. I ran serverless deploy, and just after this live is over, I will run serverless remove, and it will clean up the application entirely.
Awesome. Cool. And let's see if there's any questions in the questions tab. I see a question from Ian Valentine. I think
I'm answering that
that
right
might
now.
be more of a.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, so if there's
Okay.
any questions, go ahead and put them in the questions tab. Otherwise, it looks like we got them. I think Philip had a question. It looks like Chris answered it already about getting the old output from the serverless deploy command.
Perfect.
Okay, so there's just a
Yes,
verbose
the
flag.
verbose flag. Yeah, this is really important to mention that. We know that verbose output is really useful, for example, in CI/CD. So we've made sure to have very clean experience by default, but if you want the details, you have verbose flag now. We've added that to all commands, and we've tried to make sure that the serverless CLI behaves like any other command with that verbose flag, which didn't exist in V2.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Matthew. Okay, so yeah, if you have any additional questions, post them in the questions tab. And why don't we transition and hand it over to Chris, who's going to show us the latest in dashboard, serverless dashboard, and what's coming up next in our serverless console product. So take it away, Chris.
Yep. All right. So thank you, Stephen. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris. I work in product engineering here at Serverless, and I'm currently on the console initiative. So while I'm queuing up screen share here, just a little bit of background before diving into new features. Monitoring decentralized applications is a bit of a challenge. It is not easy to have everything like in line where you need it to be, and yeah, just being able to see your bugs and logs and all that stuff is a bit of a challenge in itself. So yeah, that's why we created Serverless Dashboard. Serverless Dashboards are a monitoring product that makes it easy to introspect services at runtime, access real-time logs without the tedium of CloudWatch, trial payloads against various cloud services, and much more. Hopefully it doesn't come as much of a surprise, but we love framework and cloud. And despite actively building these products, we're also using them internally every day. And most engineers at Serverless join due to their love of both. So we get to use our monitoring products as much as end users. And between this and customer reviews, we've learned that how to get the most value out of our serverless monitoring product. And we've also learned what we can improve on in our own platform. So let me show you what we have currently. Here's a demo environment that's set up. Includes a lot of fake data, but at the same time, there's a lot of real-time stuff streaming in here, so we can kind of see what it looks like. So in serverless dashboard, which is what we're currently looking at, you can drill into various stages of an application. So let's say our very legit application here, prod stage, and we can see highlights of activities, so API requests, errors, cold starts for functions, things like that. And then we can also see all the various REST endpoints associated with this, or functions, if there are any. Furthermore, we could go into something like our Interact tab. And if I had it set up here, we would be able to send over a payload to something like API Gateway and be able to see the response and tail the logs in real time. And then, of course, we can even go into something like the Explorer and step into events and see how the spans dictate the real-time events of it, as well as a detailed log structure and some additional metadata. A shortcoming of this, in our opinion, is that even though this simplifies things a whole lot for decentralized development, there's still a lot of clicking around. Particularly as a developer myself, even when working in big monolithic projects, there's no chance I'm not going to be in at least 2 or 3 stages, sometimes even several applications every single day. And having all of this in kind of a dashboard where you have to drill down into the various stages and introspect them from there makes for some tedium. Again, it's a little bit cleaner, but we wanted to improve upon that. And I think this is a good point where I can introduce Consul. So in Consul, you're immediately welcome with data from across your entire org. Unlike most monitoring services where there's a lot of setup for, it feels like you're more setting up the interface for business intelligence purposes. This immediately feels as though it's for developers. From the get-go, if you're an existing serverless customer and you've been writing applications, your data is immediately available. So there's nothing that you have to set up. This is out of the box, the kind of view that you would be seeing. There's no lengthy configuration process. You don't have to set up a lot of views associated with it. It's really nice to be able to just get in here and immediately start working with your data. At Serverless, we really like our REST APIs. So in this particular case, I have this dashboard pegged to REST APIs. They're not limited to that, and I'll get into that more in a moment. But on the left side, you can see our various endpoints. So what we're looking at is a cross-org view, as opposed to back in dashboard here, where you have to drill into various stages. And I mean, you can't even see your entire application as a whole. In Consul, you can see your entire org at a glance. So it really speeds things along, particularly when you're doing a lot of context switching and going between development or going between a bunch of different applications, being able to see how it all kind of choreographs together. So on my right side here, there's metrics pegged to the current period of the past 24 hours. So we have just kind of highlights at the top here. We have various API requests as well as a latency chart. And we can see where the highs and lows are across all of our various microservices. And at the bottom, we have just sorted by commonalities here. So an important detail to note when you first jump into Consul here is the use of color. So when I'm not going to name any names, but in a lot of other monitoring products, you're almost immediately just taken aback by the amount of stuff you have to look at, the amount of color you have to kind of traverse around and be able to figure out what it all means and everything. And in our opinion, that kind of limits its ability to just give you the information you need really, really quickly. So in here, red means that it needs your attention. Black means you're okay. You're good. So as a developer, when I come in here, I know that these elements here have some errors associated with them, and they might require some immediate attention and deserve a little bit of extra love. Whereas looking at the latency graph here, we highlight stuff that so given your current period here, again this is 24 hours, we would highlight elements that are just outside of or significantly outside of your average like P90, P95 range. So if we're hitting like a huge gap here, that'll be highlighted red, so you can know where to pay attention to. And that's further exasperated here. If I was to go into filtering and change this to like a week-long period, you can see that there would be a lot more latency coming in. It's a little bit slow right now because we're using test data here. But yeah, if you see the high points and low points, a little bit easier. So one of the more powerful features in the serverless console here is the ability to, that I just kind of demonstrated quickly, is the ability to filter down this information as much as you need to. So you can go in here and you can quickly just filter by stages. So if I wanted just prod or just dev, I can do that. I can also tailor it down by services, various endpoints. If we're looking at HTTP requests, we can tailor it by status code, and you can even have user-defined tags in here. Right now, we're using just like some of our app names and what have you, but you can really put anything you wanted in there. Furthermore, one of the really cool features is that you can go in and change the mode dashboard wide. And this would allow you to, as opposed to looking at REST API endpoints, you can choose function invocations. And this is going to blow up, I think, here with a lot of errors because we're capturing just like log events and errors thrown. But when the data comes in here, I can switch this to shorter span. Silly me, I should have preloaded the data here for you. Here. So this is an hour, just for the sake of speed here. And this is pegged to all the function invocations as opposed to the REST API endpoints. And in the near future, we'll also be adding things like being able to work with your GraphQL APIs. So you'll be able to churn over that. And then we'll also be adding some additional modes for maybe like looking over DynamoDB data or things like that. If you guys have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them and be able to fold them into the product as well as we're working on it. So just going back here to REST API real quickly, if I was to set this back to say 24 hours, another neat feature is that you're able to just call all of the data in here by various intervals within each of the graphs. So like, for example, if I want to just hone in this 1 hour period, I could do that, and it'll give you a list of your transactions for that period. And yeah, you can further drill into those as they come in. So currently, we're still working on this and heavily under development. And in the coming days, like I said, we'll be adding GraphQL support. In here, we'll be getting transactional data highlights. There's going to be a beautiful logging and stack traces feature coming in, as well as an improved version of Interact and many features that help you just better manage your org providers and keys. Right now, we're looking at a very early version of Consul. And it's currently in private preview. Dashboard is available today, going back to that. And you can sign up to be able to use Dashboard immediately by going to serverless.com/dashboard. And then Consul is currently in private preview. If you're interested in early access, please join us at serverless.com/Consul. And then any existing Dashboard users will automatically be granted access to Consul as it moves into production in early 2022. That's it from me. If there's any questions, I'd love to hear them. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. We've got one question from Shane in the questions tab, and that is, are there additional runtimes being considered for the dashboard? He says, if I recall correctly, only Node and Python are supported at this time.
So Node and Python are only supported at this time. We're definitely considering other ones. If there's any particular ones you'd like to have prioritized or anything in order to fit your needs the best possibly can, just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll prioritize accordingly.
Okay, thanks, Shane. And can Serverless Console be self-hosted?
I would recommend reaching out to our sales team and talking to them about that. They can definitely give you some additional insight.
Yeah. Hey, Nick. So yeah, Nick, if you are interested in following up, we can we can follow up with you, or you can go to serverless.com/sales, and there's a form there to where we can directly follow up with you. And Richard had a piece of feedback here in the questions. So some sort of data integrity checking and monitoring for DynamoDB could be a nice add to Consul.
Definitely. Yeah, we want to have very application specific modes in here too. So DynamoDB is one of the things that is at the front of mind, and something that as you saw in both Jeremy and Matthew's examples, DynamoDB is something that we're using heavily. So being able to even have that for our own use is exciting. Can't wait to be able to get that in everybody else's hands as well.
Cool. All right. It looks like those are most of the questions. So, so yeah, we covered a lot of things today, the latest updates across our product line. As a reminder, you should be able to download this this deck directly from the browser window. If you can't, let me know in the chat, and I will make sure to make this available to you. And it's got links to everything that we talked about today. So Serverless Cloud, which is in public preview right now. So it's just serverless.com/cloud. Go ahead and sign up. I think there's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of good questions that were asked in today's community call. V3 beta of the serverless framework, that's available now. Get started. And also getting started with the serverless dashboard. So there's a free tier associated with getting started with that. And then if you are interested in becoming part of the private preview of Serverless Console, you can go to serverless.com/console. And as a reminder, we love to get feedback. So in that reminder email that you got, please fill out that form. It takes about 1 minute. If you have additional questions and comments about what you'd love to see in future community calls, put it in the chat window or in that feedback. We'd love to get a sense of what you want to see more of next time, because this is really meant for you. And then also, if you are interested in becoming a technical author or sharing your story of how serverless helped you out, please fill out the form for the user stories and the author program. So I'm actually pasting that in the chat right now, and let me go ahead and make that as a call to action, just to be super annoying. Okay, so it looks like as we wrap things up, there might be a couple more questions that showed up in the chat tab. Well, it looks like Jeremy answered those. So I think for the first time in history, we are wrapping up the community call on time and answering just about all the questions. I hope you all enjoyed it, and thanks for joining as the holidays approach. So if you don't hear from us before the end of the year, happy holidays. And we look forward to doing more of these in 2022. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all.